Welcome to the Caregiver Circle podcast, where caregivers connect, share, and feel seen. Join hosts Karen McKevitt and Meredith Stewart each week for conversations, support, and encouragement designed to help you navigate the caregiving journey with confidence, compassion, and community. This is a space built for caregivers, one rooted in connection, understanding, and support. Welcome to the Caregiver Circle.
Welcome back to the Caregiver Circle with Karen and Meredith.
Hello, welcome. Can't believe we're doing our second episode already.
Isn't it crazy how one conversation has really just spurred this whole thought process into caregiving stages of life, I guess I could say it.
Absolutely.
And Meredith, one of the things that I think I walked away from after our conversation the other day was as much as our situations are completely different in caring for our people and who we even are as individuals, the themes were very similar and the same. So I think I want to say thank you for pointing that out on our offline conversation.
Mhm. Yeah, it's you really think that you're on your own and you're unique in your situation, and then you find out, no, it might be a little different, but there's so much the same.
And I think that's what excites me about what we're doing here because I know there's someone like us out there going, I'm on my own little island. I don't know where to start.
Yes.
And I can't imagine having someone else go through that and feel the same way when there's so many of us out here.
Mhm. Absolutely. You're
Well,
so right.
one of the things that I was doing kind of just prepping for today, I always want to think about what we're going to cover, and I want to focus on advocacy today. And what was really interesting, and I didn't know this until I was just kind of spending some time online like we all do. And Rosalind Carter, Jimmy Carter, our 39th president, his first lady, I didn't know that she was a caregiver herself. And apparently, she was about 12 years old when her father had passed, and she had, I think, three younger siblings, and she had to help her mom. So she
Boy.
became a caregiver. Right. It was interesting.
Hmm.
And there's actually the Rosalind Carter Institute. I'll double check that in a moment. Rosalind Carter famously said, there are only four kinds of people in the world: those who have been caregivers, those who are currently caregivers, those who will be caregivers, and those who will need caregivers. So I find that really, really interesting that this has been kind of a passion from hers since she was first lady, and that was, 70s. And here we are, 2026, and we're still struggling to find that kind of support.
Mhm. Wow, that kinda gave me chills because she's right.
It really is. And we were talking about that last time. One in four of us will become a caregiver.
Mhm.
So, this is something that's clearly a need.
Absolutely.
It's crazy. So I think we can dive in. So this is going to be exciting. Like I said, we're going to focus on advocacy. And I want to spin it a little bit. I want to do it for both the people we care for and then also for ourselves.
Okay. That's a big one.
It is. So I want to focus first on your experiences of advocacy for your person. So we'll dive in for our care recipient, as I like to say it when I blog. Did you ever feel unprepared to advocate for your mom?
Sure. Absolutely. I don't know if I said this last week or not, but hers was a neck break initially, and that's a whole world I knew nothing about. And not only did I know nothing about it, but it was you have to decide now, 50% chance to live. We need an answer, blah, blah, blah. So I was very unprepared up front. And I had to then make some quick decisions on her behalf, but then that had to continue because the from the break, she had some cognitive deficits. She had to relearn to feed herself. She had to relearn to do a lot of things. and she didn't remember a lot of things. So I had to advocate on her behalf, but then as she started improving, there was a fine line between my advocating for her and me controlling her life. And so for me, I had to take a step back because to me it was advocating, but I had to take a step back and say, you know what, she's still human. She can still make her own decisions. But that's really hard when I see her 24 hours a day and I'm like, no, you need this. And I tell the doctor she needs this. And my mom says, no, I don't need that. So I think there's a fine line when you're advocating for your loved one when they're still able to make their own decisions and your thoughts and their thoughts don't match up.
And I think that's a really fascinating difference between advocating and controlling. And
Mhm.
is there a way you've kind of figured out the difference between that? And how do you mediate when you do have those differences?
I still struggle with that and continually have to remind myself that my mom's still human. My mom still has her right mind. My mom still gets to make the ultimate decisions for her. Back when she couldn't do that, I did that for her. But now she can do that for herself.
Mhm.
So it's really, we have to have some conversations and I have to explain more of, this is what I'm seeing. This is why I think this for her to realize, okay, and we've made that work. It's taken time. My mom's a very strong woman, and so letting go of a little of that on her part was difficult, which I can understand because I would be the exact same way. But we've made it work, and communication has been how we've been able to make that work to take my for me to stop controlling her and taking away her decision making and me then advocating for her. And it may be that I'm not advocating for her in what my beliefs are, what I think she needs. It may be that she's convinced me that she's correct and I need to advocate for her from her point of view. And I think that's not, I don't always think that's what we think of when we think about advocating, but that's really where we have found ourselves because of that improvement in her deficits. So that's where we have been.
I like that you have your communication between each other because if you're not on the same page, you're naturally going to have those differences. We're sitting here focusing on those that are cognitively able to make their own decisions. We're not going down the dementia path where it's definitely going to be a different experience. So
Right. For
that's a
sure.
really, really cool call out.
Yeah. How about you? How's it been for you?
Advocating for me, I think, has almost come second nature. And I think that's me being a mom. I think
Mhm.
um, I went in full mama bear mode. My person was very okay with that. I think we had a balance. We know each other very well. So I think if I am stepping on toes, it's okay. I see where you're going just kind of naturally. So I think it was
Mhm.
very different for us. And what's interesting is that I've noticed simple things are, well, what do you think? And in those moments, it's not always about what I think because you're the one that's navigating or doing this or that. And, this is just like outings right now. It's where should we sit in the room? And it's really because we have mobility challenges. What's easier on you? So
Mhm.
I was reflecting on some advocacy earlier today. And when we were early on in the hospital and all this, they were trying to discharge us out of the hospital. And we had a hospital staff trying to make us a decision on where to put him next because home wasn't safe. And they were a little pushy. But the problem is we didn't have enough information.
Yes.
And trying to get that information, one of the things that I did is we have a running joke because I'm Karen. Everybody calls you as Karen these days in a negative tone, but
Right.
my joke is everything I do is a Karen because I am Karen. So I went into me Karen mode and got very direct with people to get the information that I needed for us to make the decision. So one of the first things I did was I called the patient advocate in the hospital. And I had had that experience with another loved one a few years ago. And I realized that's a resource. So between the patient advocate, the doctor, and me having to get a little pushy, we made the best decision for what we had to in the moment. Now, I can always go back and say, "Oh, I should have done XYZ," but I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah.
But I think the full-blown mama bear mode just kicked in, and I think that was an easier role for me to take. But again, I'm a mom. So I
Yes.
think for me, that has been ingrained in me for the last, however many years.
Yeah, and in my situation, it's been a flip-flop of the parent-child relationship, and, you know, luckily, my mom and I can joke about that she is my child now, and I am the parent. Maybe not, but in a lot of ways it is. And so, yeah, I definitely advocating's a hard one. Making those decisions and living with that decision and believing that you made the best decision at that moment, like you were talking about, that can be hard.
Yeah. Why do you think advocacy becomes such a large part of caregiving?
I think it depends on each case. Like I said, with mine, there was some cognitive deficits in the beginning. And so I had to. Obviously, if you're a caregiver of someone with dementia, you're going to have that as well. But a lot of times, the person in need of caregiving isn't able to see the bigger picture. I know for my mom, all she wanted to do was go home. She was going home. It did not matter. Home wasn't where she needed to be right at that moment. Obviously, she's home now, and I'm thankful for that. But, there were things that she couldn't see. They put her into intensive rehab. Well, I had to drive a couple hours every day because she refused to do the work. Well, she didn't think she needed it. I knew she needed it. So there's things that you're not able to see looking out where we can see looking in. So I think that's where regardless I think caregiving takes a different avenue for everybody. I think ultimately it's that bigger picture and being able to see more because for whatever reason, they're not able to see the bigger picture right at that moment because they're having to focus solely on what's happening at that time. What about you?
I think you said it so beautifully. I don't think I can eloquently add any more to that. I think it's just such an important piece that it has to fall on someone. And I think you're absolutely right that we're here to see the bigger picture and to push a little bit. I think advocacy and cheerleading almost go hand in hand because it's the encouragement. Thinking about both of our situations in their uniqueness, we both had to push our people to do the steps.
Mhm.
But I'm sure it's equally challenging for people who were completely normal and functional and independent to then, in the snap of a fingers, need help for everything.
Mhm.
So there's a
Yeah.
lot of emotion there.
Yep. Yes, there is.
So then I want to shift a little bit because we've obviously talked about how we've had to just go into this advocacy mode. But one of the things that I kept saying while we were in the rehabs was that we had a power to say no. And I don't know that many people that find themselves in these situations overnight recognize that no is actually just as important as going through the motions and going through like the checklists of, how do I care for my person or anything like that. Have you had to go through the experience where no was your answer and you had to stick firm with that?
So there's been multiple times when it's been from hospital to needing to go to a rehab. And you and I both know rehabs are not equal. The quality isn't equal. The care is not equal. So for me, that became my biggest no was when they were just looking for a bed. No, you're not just looking for a bed. You're looking for the people that are gonna help my mom. They're gonna care for my mom 24/7 when I can't be there, and they're going to help her physically, mentally, medically. So that was really my big no, was when they would try to just push us off. Now my mom, like I said, wanted to go home, so she would have taken whatever and just got the next person to send her home. So so that really, I guess that's where my no's started. Um And I think I kind of found my voice in that time frame because that was early on in advocating and learning to do that, learning to parent rather than child. So I think that's probably where mine started.
I like that. Ours was a little bit different because I remember sitting in the hospital and asking a million questions of our surgeon. We didn't know when we'd have to have surgery, but we had a feeling it was coming up a lot sooner than we both expected. And I distinctly remember saying, we can make a decision now and change our mind. No is a valid answer. And that kind of became our theme of being sure that we could agree or disagree with what was being presented to us. Fast
Mm.
forward about a month later, and, we had the intensive rehab experience post surgery. And for some very bizarre reason, they were taking blood work at 4 a.m. when my person was asleep.
Mhm.
And they would wake up, and the question would be, why are you doing that? And what is this for? And these were the wonderful nurses that were caring, and they're following doctor's orders. And we would then wait to go and ask the doctor, well, what was this blood work for? I think it was like one of the last couple of days that my person was in rehab. And again, 4 in the morning, there's the nurse trying to get blood. And my person just said, no, we're done with this. Y- We had no idea why they kept doing the blood work. And I hate to say that I've become cynical about the whole medical billing process, but we were done. No more.
Mhm.
And I think that was one of our best lessons coming out of it was that no is a valid answer.
Absolutely. That I like that. I think that's important to know because we're all taught to trust your doctor. That was the hardest part for me. You're told to trust your doctor, but they're not there. They don't see what's happening on the other side.
I have a wonderful primary care physician that I've seen for a million years. And he once said, well, have you ever wondered why doctors' offices are called practices? And I remember looking at him and he goes, because we're practicing. And he did mean it as a joke, and he is wonderful, but it stuck with me because no two people are the same.
That's right. That's right.
So what works for me is not going to work for you. I was in my primary's office a couple weeks ago and I had an illness, but he outright said, I've never had anyone present like this. And so I was like, well, congratulations, I'm your first. I am appreciative for my doctor to be so open and, you know, having the personality that he does, but it's very truthful. It's
Mhm.
every person's going to be a little bit different. So, yes, you're going to go with your logic and the numbers. You present this way and whatnot, but we're all going to be different.
Mm. Sure.
Now I want to focus on us as caregivers. It's gonna be a little bit of a challenge, I think, for both of us being the strong, independent women that we find ourselves to be, and, I know you've certainly mentioned that. How do you advocate for yourself You have needs and those don't go away just because you're caring for someone else.
This is not my strong suit
Mine either.
by any means. Like I've said, my mom's my responsibility, and I take that responsibility very seriously. And I think what has helped me is time, because in the very beginning, I was even worse than I am now. about it. And there were people that would offer to help. And I think I probably, not intentionally, but I think I probably hurt feelings because there were people that really wanted to help and give me some relief, but I just felt like it was my responsibility. So over time, I realized that my mom and I both need breaks from each other. And so if I need to do something, then I need to do something and I need to ask. I still have a very hard time asking for somebody else to come and sit with her. So I'm not good at that by any means. And even if I do have to ask for help, I make sure everything is done. You just have to come sit here. Just make sure the house doesn't catch on fire and she's in here by herself.
I will challenge that a little bit based on our conversations. I think you have a nice routine that you two have every day, if I remember correctly.
Sure. Yeah. My mom and I have come to understand each other very well over the last few years, and just little things that I can do to help her. And in turn, there's little things that she has done to help me. And I ended up going to therapy because I couldn't advocate for myself. And I knew that if I didn't start advocating for myself, I was going to start resenting. And I never, never want to resent my mom or my brother. And so when knew I was headed in that direction, I said, I need help. And so I started therapy, and it was the best thing I ever did. And I'm in an excellent place now. But the one thing that she told me that sticks with me is, you can tell your brother he has to take care of your mom, but you cannot tell him how to do it. So she said, if when he's in charge, he has somebody else come take care of her, you can't do anything about that. You have to let it go. That was hard for me. As hard as it was, it's what saved me, because I was at a breaking point when I finally said, "I- it's time. I can't keep up. I can't keep doing what I'm doing." And so that for me was good. So I guess I have improved.
That's a huge thing, right? I think that's phenomenal advice. Absolutely. We can ask for help, but it really doesn't matter how they help and how they do it.
Mhm.
It's going to happen where it's just not our way.
Right.
And I think that's
Absolutely.
hard as, women who are in control.
Yes, exactly. And I had to have somebody sit me down and say specifically, you can't control that. And yeah, I still struggled, but I have, over the last couple years, I've gotten better at that. How about you? Do you struggle with advocating for yourself? Please tell me I'm not alone.
You are 100% not alone, and I know this is a audio podcast, so people can't see that we're, nodding our heads and agreeing, but yes, absolutely, it is very, very hard for me to advocate for myself. What I find is I bottle it up until I just kinda hit my breaking point,
Mm.
and then I kinda just burst, and one of the things that I have said is my bursting isn't necessarily because I'm unhappy or I don't like something. It's just that I have needs that are being unmet.
Mhm.
And I am really trying to do the best I can for everybody else. But I have needs. I'm still a person. I'm
Mm.
still a wife. I'm still a mother. I'm still a daughter. I'm still a sister. It's all of those needs can't be met. And in our house, we have the rule my person needs to focus 80% of their time on recovery. I think that has to be the priority. And then the other 20%, all of the roles that they play in our lives. So I have been very, very vocal. Oh, you look great today, or I've noticed this improvement. But I also need some of those same responses. I still need to hear that I look good today or I did something nice today. And my person's extremely good at saying thank you and I appreciate it and, all of these. But I don't necessarily need the appreciations for the routine stuff. It's the
Mhm.
acknowledgement of the things that I go out of my way for. That's kind of where I'm missing it. So we do have conversations and it's really hard because we're kind of in the routine where in the morning, he's doing one thing and I'm doing another thing. And then we finally get to the end of our day and we're finally sitting down and can have the conversation. By the time I'm ready to talk, my person's asleep in the chair
Yeah.
because the day has been long. It's been therapy, it's been work, it's been, everything that we do. And it's not fair to expect the conversation to happen at that point, it's just the timing of it. So,
Sure.
there is frustration. I miss hand-holding and just the basics
Mhm.
of our relationships. So, there have been a couple of disagreements because there's that disconnect, because there's so much going on. So,
Mhm.
part of it is patience, part of it is, "I just want you to listen to me."
Mhm.
So I get a little feisty. I always think of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I'm sitting here going, my basic needs down here are not met. I can be self actualized if you X.
Yeah. And I think part of that is in with who your person is. That was your world, you know? And that was flipped upside down. And I can't even imagine experiencing that and having to navigate that and then still be the caregiver in that situation. He's lucky.
Thank you. And it's challenging. I'll share this story. We have three cars, and one car needed to go down to our child in Florida. And it was planned back in February. I'll take it down. I'll spend a weekend. I'll, fly home. Well, that didn't happen because we were in the throes of all of this and I finally made the promise to the child, "Okay, in March I will do this." And we made it happen. But there were things that had to happen for the vehicle in order to get down there. I'm not going to bring a car that hasn't been serviced and all this stuff. So I relied on my friends to make sure that we got that taken care of and said vehicle and child are together and happy as clams. Fast forward to the end of March, and I recognize that the other 2 cars that are, being used by me and me alone, their safety inspections up on the same day, the next day. Oh my goodness, and we're lucky we have a mechanic right down the road walking distance, but it's just far enough where I'm not gonna call a friend and say, "Can you pick me up?" Like, it's really just far enough where it's, "Okay, I can walk." But in the case of everything that's going on, do I really wanna do that? Long story short, I was able to get both cars serviced. I walked one way, I walked the other way, and we got both cars done in a day. But I think the hard thing is when you recognize that there are certain things that you need your other half to help with, and now they're not able, it kind of throws everything up in the air because, oh, I would cook and they would clean. And I can't tell you how many times I've cried over the dishes because I hate doing the dishes.
Mhm.
There's a pile in my sink right now and I'm just procrastinating because
But
it's
it's not the dishes you're crying about, right?
correct.
It's dishes, but not the dishes.
Correct. That's exactly it. It is not the dishes as much as I hate doing them. It just changes everything.
Yeah.
I feel like I need a breath. So, Meredith, one of the things that I heard you say earlier is that, you recently went on a vacation and your brother and his girlfriend did a great job taking care of mom. How do you deal with caregiver burnout? Because I know not every burnout situation is I'm going to go away for a week. And that's kind of not practical in every situation. So, in between those weeks off, what do you do to kind of at least get you through until you can actually get a real break?
Well, my mom and I have gotten to the point where I have to say, I need time. I gotta go, and I'll go outside. I'll take my dogs outside and I'll play with them. Um, because I need a breath. And I'm usually okay for the most part, but I know when I'm getting to that point where I can't take a whole lot more. And the worst thing in the world and what I don't want to do is take my feelings out on my mom.
Mm.
And so that's what I've used is just that just stepping away, you know. What about you?
I can't say that I'm as graceful. In our house, if mama's not happy, no one's happy is kind of the philosophy I've taken. I think juggling my roles on top of caregiver, I think is still a challenge for me. But I know when we were in the depths of all of this and surgery had just happened, I had found an app online that kind of just helps me focus. Getting out of bed, washing my face and brushing my teeth. It's silly to have to be reminded of that every day, but in the throes of that, like, that was self-care, and one of the, like, check marks of this app was do something that makes you happy, and, being a coach, that doesn't have to be huge. That could be, I went to Starbucks and I got my iced tea, or, it was the dead of winter, so I treated myself and I actually got a hot cocoa because I can feel like I'm 5 years old again. It was the little things. So, finding one thing that I can do just solely for me was how I got through it. Now it looks a little bit different. My person's working from home and has been for 2 months. So, while they're working, I'm doing other things that fuel me. I'm taking certifications, I'm building things that interest me. I keep my own personal interests focused on, so I think because I have those things, I'm a much happier person in general, and it's the small little thing that I can do to carve out my time. Now, that's not saying in my townhouse, I'm not running up and down the stairs 100 times, taking care of little things that I need.
Yeah.
But that definitely helps.
Yeah, it's just those few minutes to yourself that they really mean a lot in the grand scheme of things.
Absolutely. It really does. So I think again, we want to keep some of these bite size, and we may have gone long because this was just such a full topic. So as we wrap up, let's find some practical tips for some of our listeners today. I think accepting help, and I think you nailed that with your story earlier on. So I think that asking for help component is so critical.
Mhm.
And I think the biggest one is saying I need support too. It's so focused on our person and our situation that the caregivers often kind of forget about us needing a little bit more.
Sure.
Advocacy is not about being difficult. It's really just about making sure that our needs are seen, heard, supported, and it's a two-way street.
It sure is. You're right, but it's a hard two-way street.
Uh, yes, absolutely. I don't think I would ever put easy in this situation at all.
No.
Mm.
Yeah.
And there's so many of us caregivers out there, and I know we said it the last time, and I'll continue to say it this time. It's out of love that we
Mhm.
do all of this. So,
For sure.
well, keep doing the good work, and until next time, take care of yourself while taking care of your person, and remember that you're never alone in the caregiver circle. The Caregiver Circle is a podcast of two friends providing a place for connection education, encouragement, and shared experiences. As caregivers, advocates, and lifelong learners, we share stories, resources, and conversations that have helped us along the way, with the hope that they may help you too. While we strive to share helpful information, the content of this podcast is not intended to replace professional medical, legal, financial, or mental health advice. Please consult qualified professionals regarding your specific situation and needs.